Check, 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 check. So the latest news regarding weed, cannabis, and the legalization of. I don't know if you guys have heard about Germany being the latest country from the 1st of April to 2024. They basically changed their laws to allow the recreational use, the medicinal use, you're allowed to carry, you're allowed to cultivate, which is another big win for the world. Did you guys know about that? Did you guys hear anything about that? Do you guys care about weed?
Yeah, we do care about weed.
You guys don't care about weed, do you?
No, we do care about weed.
Where's
Definitely
Bam
care.
when you need her?
Definitely care. Yeah, it's. I think it's good economically. That's how I see it. It's. This means there's going to be a lot of investment, employment, and enjoyment that's coming through out of that. So good news straight out of Europe.
Why aren't a lot of countries in Africa? I think one of the biggest problems with Africa is the whole taboo about marijuana being firstly a gateway drug and the cause of mental illness. But let me read you an article from Statista.com, right? This is now regarding, because South Africa has legalized marijuana, has legalized the cultivation of marijuana. This, taken from Statista.com, right? It talks about how the industry and the cannabis industry is expected to grow. I'll just read a couple of stuff for you, and then let me know what you think. So the cannabis market in South Africa is expected to experience significant growth in the coming years. According to projections, revenues in this market is estimated to reach 308.2 million US dollars in 2024. This represents a substantial opportunity for business operation in the cannabis industry. Furthermore, the market is expected to continue expanding at an annual growth rate of 1.19% from 2024 to 2029. It goes on, it goes on. Could cannabis be the next oil?
I think it has already been the oil, but just that people didn't want to legalize it. I feel like it has always been done underground with us not knowing it.
Yeah, no. I feel like a lot of governments, even the ones where it's illegal, know that people are using marijuana in the country, right? I think. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
South Africa, before it legalized, they knew that people were using marijuana because obviously they were arresting a lot of people, right?
Yeah, man.
Correct.
Why not? Because you know this is already happening. Because you know that you can use this to build an industry. Why not just use it and regulate it?
Look, I'll pitch in there. My understanding is like when it comes to passing laws and stuff, there are a lot of things that have to be factored into consideration. Fine, think the fact that perhaps maybe some people will be using it and breaking current laws, that's a huge consideration, right?
What do you mean using it and breaking current laws?
For instance, if it hasn't been legalized but the government knows that it's being used,
Yeah.
the fact that certain people are somewhat using it illegally, it's a push for that thing to be legalized, right? That's one point. Second point, you also have to take into account norms of society. In certain instances, religion then plays a huge role, where you're now using religion to inform the morality of that society. So because of the norms of that society and religion, it becomes very difficult to pass those things. Fine, you may know that a lot of people are doing it, but just on the basis of the foundational norms of that society, you can't then just legalize off of that basis. So it's really difficult for lawmakers sometimes to get to the point where they just legalize. And I was very surprised with that South Africa did it. But yeah, the South African constitution allowed that, in that it's a circular environment where our norms, they're probably being influenced more out of the constitution, being a society with a lot of religion and disciplines, as compared to other societies that might be trying to just follow one course of thinking. Really, that's how I see it. So
But now,
there are a lot of countries that are still going to be behind, and it will take time if it ever happens.
like, so I've been trying to find out why kind of weed is actually illegal. And I haven't really been able to find a proper, like, why it's illegal in the first place. So obviously it goes back to, like, from what I've been looking at, maybe my research is wrong, but it seems to kind of go back to the United States and brings it back to racism. So there isn't really, like I said, my researching could be horrible, but from what I see, there isn't actually a legitimate reason why it was illegal in the first place.
Yeah.
And one of
Look,
the articles here puts racism as one of the reasons.
As for me, my own thinking. Remember, marijuana use a lot of diseases, right? So
Yeah.
if people continue to use marijuana, there will be less patients at the hospitals and less people going to the pharmacies. That would be one reason they wouldn't want it to be legal.
Okay. So
okay.
so that's
Because if there are less
to,
patients, there's less
Yeah.
profits on the medical side.
Look, that's a fair argument. That's a fair argument. For me, my understanding, which makes sense, right,
Yeah.
is that one, particularly back in the day, it's better now, but back in the day, wasn't it the 1930s? My understanding was, of course, people realized that this drug was mind altering in some shape or form, right? Let's forget
Yeah.
whether that's good or that's bad. But I think the fact that they didn't understand it, they didn't understand its benefits, they didn't understand the wrong things that could come out of it. I think that lack of understanding and high potential for abuse and addictiveness is what probably pushed people towards trying to restrict it. Because I think what you're seeking is trying to come up with a norm in society. And for me, unless you agree and you understand what something is doing, that probably makes more sense to me. That's my understanding of how it came about. That a lot of these, especially those naturally occurring substances and mind-altering drugs, they were banned off the basis of that. People just didn't understand. Of course, it's known that, like, it can get you high, it can affect your mood and stuff, but out of that, besides that, people didn't understand the consequences of doing those things, etc.
Okay. I'm going to read you, taken from an article from the Britannica.com. I'm not sure how credible this source is, but it says in the 1930s, Harry J. Anslinger, head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, turned the battle against marijuana into an all-out war. Some believe that he was motivated less by safety concerns. The vast majority of scientists he surveyed claimed that the drug was not dangerous, and more by a desire to promote his newly created department, and more by the desire to promote his newly created department. Whatever the impetus, Anslinger sought a federal ban on the drug, and to this end, he initiated a high-profile campaign that rallied heavily on racism. Talks about him, and then it talks about a movie. Furthermore, he noted, reefer makes darkies think they are as good as white men, right?
Oh, wow.
Perhaps even more worrisome too. And Slinger was Pot's supposed threat to white women's virtue. He believed that smoking pot would result in their having sex with black men. I know, right? Crazy. Aided by an eager news media and such propaganda films as Reefer Madness in the 1936, and Slinger eventually oversaw the passage of the Marijuana Act in 1937, which effectively made the drug illegal across the United States. This playing in the background is the voice of botanist. Decriminalization, gotta be the name of the track. We'll talk after this.